Robert Roy MacGregor was a Scottish outlaw, who later became a folk hero. He has been called the Scottish Robin Hood. The name Roy comes from Gaelic Ruadh meaning red, and referred to his red hair. Early life. Rob Roy was born at Glengyle, at the head of Loch Katrine, as recorded in the baptismal register of Buchanan, Stirling. His parents were Donald Glass MacGregor and Margaret Campbell. He was also descended from the MacDonalds of Keppoch through his paternal mother. In January 1693, at Corriarclet Farm near Inversnaid, he married Mary Helen MacGregor of Coma, who was born at Lenny Farm, Strathla. The couple had 4 sons, James, Ranald, Col and Robert. They also adopted a cousin named Duncan. Jacobite Rising. Along with many Highland clansmen, at the age of 18 Rob Roy together with his father joined the Jacobite Rising led by Viscount Dundee, known as Bonnie Dundee, to support the Stuart King James II who had fled Britain, a precursor to the Glorious Revolution of 1688. Although victorious in initial battles, Dundee was killed in 1689, deflating the rebellion. Rob's father was taken to jail, where he was held on treason charges for 2 years. Rob's mother Margaret's health failed during Donald's time in prison. By the time Donald was finally released, his wife was dead. The Gregor chief never returned to his former spirited health. Glenshire. In 1716 Rob Roy moved to Glenshire for a short time and lived under the protection of John Campbell, 2nd Duke of Argyll, also known as Red John of the Battles, Ian Rua in Nanka. Argyll negotiated an amnesty and protection for Rob and granted him permission to build a house in the glen for the surrendering up of weapons. Traditionally the story goes that Argyll only received a large cache of rusty old weapons. A sporran and dirk handle which belonged to Rob Roy can still be seen at Inverary Castle. Rob Roy only used this house occasionally for the next 3 or 4 years. In July 1717, Rob Roy and the whole of the clan Gregor were specifically excluded from the benefits of the Indemnity Act 1717, which had the effect of pardoning all others who took part in the Jacobite Rising of 1715. Rob Roy was badly wounded at the Battle of Glenshiel in 1719, in which a British government army with allied Highlanders defeated a force of Jacobite Scots supported by the Spanish. Sometime around 1720 and after the heat of Rob's involvement at the Battle of Glenshiel had died down, Rob moved to Monachilturach by Loch Don, and sometime before 1722 Rob finally moved to Inverlochlerigg on the Braes of Balquhidder. Later life. Rob Roy became a well-known and respected cattleman. This was a time when cattle rustling and selling protection against theft were commonplace means of earning a living. Rob Roy borrowed a large sum to increase his own cattle herd, but owing to the disappearance of his chief herder, who was entrusted with the money to bring the cattle back, Rob Roy lost his money and cattle, and defaulted on his loan. As a result, he was branded an outlaw, and his wife and family were evicted from the house at Inversnaid, which was then burned down. After his principal creditor, James Graham, 1st Duke of Montrose, seized his lands, Rob Roy waged a private blood feud against the Duke until 1722, when he was forced to surrender. Later imprisoned, he was finally pardoned in 1727. He died in his house at Inverlochlerigg, Balquhidder, on the 28th of December 1734. Another version of this series of events states that Rob Roy's estate of Craigrostarn and Ardes were forfeited for his part in the rebellion of 1715. The Duke of Montrose acquired the property in 1720 by open purchase from the Commissioners of Inquiry. K. Maclay, M.D. in Historical Memoirs of Rob Roy and the Clan MacGregor quotes, "But he had taken the resolution of becoming a Roman Catholic, and he accordingly left the lonely residence we have described, and returning to Perthshire, went to a Mr. Alexander Drummond, an old priest of that faith, who resided at Drummond Castle." Maclay takes the view that Rob did this out of sorrow for his crimes. Legacy. Glengyle House, on the shore of Loch Katrine, dates back to the early 18th century, with a porch dated to 1707, and is built on the site of the 17th-century stone cottage where Rob Roy is said to have been born. Since the 1930s, the Category B listed building had been in the hands of successive water authorities, but was identified as surplus to requirements and put up for auction in November 2004, despite objections from the Scottish National Party. The Rob Roy Way, a long-distance footpath from Drymond to Pitlochry, was created in 2002 and named in Rob Roy's honour. Descendants of Rob Roy settled around MacGregor, Iowa, United States, and in 1849 it was reported that the original MacGregor seal and signet was owned by Alex MacGregor of Iowa. The Scots Gaelic clan seal was inscribed Est Raigal Modream. The signet was a bloodstone from Loch Lomond, and was sketched by William Williams. In 1878, the football club Kirkintilloch Rob Roy was founded and named in his memory. In popular culture, the year 1723 saw the publication of a fictionalized account of his life, The Highland Rogue. Rob Roy became a legend in his own lifetime, and George I was moved to issue a pardon for his crimes just as he was about to be transported to the colonies. The publication of Rob Roy by Sir Walter Scott in 1817 further added to his fame and fleshed out his biography. Hector Berlioz was inspired by the book to compose an overture. William Wordsworth wrote a poem called Rob Roy's Grave during a visit to Scotland. Adaptations of his story have also been told in film, including the 1922 silent film Rob Roy, a 1953 film from Walt Disney Productions Rob Roy, The Highland Rogue, and the 1995 Rob Roy directed by Michael Caton Jones and starring Liam Neeson. In 1894, a bartender at the Waldorf Hotel in New York City created the Rob Roy cocktail in honor of the premiere of Rob Roy, an operetta by composer Reginald Dickoven and lyricist Harry B. Smith, loosely based upon Robert Roy MacGregor.